So, picture this. At an education conference not too long ago, uCertify's CTO, Prashant Gupta, gets asked this really direct question. How are you guys different from all the other ed tech tools out there? And his answer? Well, it didn't start with tech specs or a list of features. It started with a story that might just change how you see the classroom today.
He starts with this ancient parable about the blind men and the elephant. And, it turns out this old story perfectly captures one of the biggest problems we're facing in education right now.
You've probably heard it, right? There are these 6 blind men, and they come across an elephant for the very first time. One guy touches the tusk and says, "Oh, it's a spear." Another one feels the ear and thinks it's a fan. A third one grabs the leg and is convinced it's a tree trunk. Each man is kind of right based on his own little piece of the puzzle. But because nobody is experiencing the whole thing, they're all ultimately completely wrong about what's standing right in front of them.
And that was the punchline. This old story about a fragmented reality is a perfect metaphor for the modern digital classroom.
So what does this fragmented classroom actually look like on a day-to-day basis? Get this. During the 2022 to 2023 school year, the average student had to use 45 different ed tech tools. And if you think that's bad, what about the teachers? They were trying to juggle an average of 49 different platforms. And the results of all this chaos? Nearly a third of all educators say they feel totally overwhelmed. So here's the crucial point. This system isn't really helping kids learn better. It's just forcing them to become expert digital multitaskers. And research shows this leads to cognitive overload, it hurts memory, and it has students switching their attention about every 6 minutes. You're not actually learning the subject. You're just learning how to navigate a really confusing system. Which, of course, brings us right back to the elephant. If the problem is all this fragmentation, then the solution has to be about seeing the whole picture. What if students and teachers didn't have to jump between dozens of different browser tabs? What if the videos, the hands-on labs, the quizzes? What if they were all part of one single seamless experience? And that's really the core idea behind uCertify. It's not trying to be just another piece of the elephant. It's designed to be the whole elephant. You've got your interactive ebooks, the videos, the labs, quizzes, even an AI tutor, all of it integrated from the ground up. One login, one gradebook, simple. But look, it's not just about making things more convenient. When you have everything in one place, it lets you embrace a much more powerful way of teaching. The idea that we learn best not by watching, but by actually doing. At its very heart, uCertify is built on this principle of learn by doing. Now, this isn't just a nice-sounding slogan. It's actually based on proven educational science, like Kolb's experiential learning cycle. So imagine a student in a class. First, they jump into a hands-on lab. That's the concrete experience. Then they reflect on why their code worked, or more likely, why it didn't. From that reflection, they start to form new concepts about programming, and then they experiment with those new ideas in the very next challenge. It's this continuous loop that builds real, lasting skill, and it works best when it all happens in one single environment. And the data on this is just staggering. A huge study found that in STEM courses, the failure rates are 1.5 times higher in old-school, lecture-based classrooms compared to classrooms that use active learning. I mean, just look at the difference between those two bars. That is a massive gap. But this chart, wow, this is the one that really shows why this all matters so much. Look at the insane difference in how much we remember. With passive learning, like just sitting and watching a lecture, we retain maybe 5 to 10%. But with active, hands-on learning, that retention rate skyrockets to between 70 and 90%. You're not just cramming for a test, you're actually learning it. Okay, so let's pull it all together. What does all of this mean in the real world? Why does unifying all these tools and focusing on active learning really matter so much? Well, for students, it's pretty simple. Less stress, less cognitive load, and more brain power left over to actually focus on learning. For instructors, it means they can stop being the IT help desk and spend more time actually teaching. For the schools and colleges, it provides clear, unified data so they can actually see what's working and what's not. And for everybody involved, it just leads to better outcomes and better preparation for the real world. So in the end, it all comes back to that very first question. In our own approach to learning, to teaching, or to our educational strategy, are we okay with just grabbing the tail and calling it a rope? Or are we finally ready to step back and see the whole elephant?